All right. Welcome, everyone, to my Healing Through Sharing series. And today I have with me Chris Reck, who is also known as Minnowpondtarot. And I've been following Chris, listening to his readings for many, many years. And so today I thought I'd bring him in and we can talk about maybe some limiting belief challenges that, you know, he's gone through, I've gone through a lot, and maybe you're going through as well. And just to reinforce that you're not alone, that, everybody's been through it. All right. So, Chris, welcome. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. So, do you want to just tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. I'm Chris from Minnowpondtarot. I read tarot, obviously. I've been on YouTube for like almost 8 years now with my channel. Can't believe it. So that's pretty much what I spend most of my time doing.
Great. And Chris, something that I just want to mention, and it's not only the messages that you give with the cards, but it's all the extra stories that you tell. And they've been really inspiring to me and and motivating. So there have been many times where, I've wanted to give up. I've thought of something and then I think, oh no, I can't do that, or I'm not good enough for that. And then just listening to you, it just sparked that energy in myself to, continue doing it anyway. Put yourself out there. So that's really helped me, and I'm sure it's helped so many of your followers as well. Yeah. So, talking about limiting beliefs, we probably all have limiting beliefs. Can you talk a little bit about yours, your challenges, and maybe how you overcame some of those?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest ones are just caring too much what people think, right? And which I think is a big one for most people.
Hmm.
But I always tell a story. My channel was stuck like at somewhere like between like 34 and 40,000 subscribers for I don't know like 2 years, and people were growing. But I say like one of the main things that I started doing that I really think broke me out of that is I started before that. I was just telling people, "Oh, I have a YouTube channel." I wasn't really sharing like what I did on YouTube, that I was a
Hmm.
tarot reader. I wasn't like afraid of it or anything. I just, but it was kind of like one of those limiting beliefs. I was like, "Oh, what are
Yes.
people going to think? What are they going to do?" But it's funny because, when I started telling people exactly what I do, that's when things really started growing. So, it's one of those moments that made me realize like, wow, these, having that belief was the thing that was holding me back maybe the whole entire time.
Hmm. And it's a story that we tell ourselves, right? Like,
Mhm.
you didn't know that, by putting yourself out there, that people would listen, or people that would want it, or even that they would criticize or judge you, but you're making that story up in your own head.
Mhm.
And right. And so how do you stop that?
Yeah, I mean, I just had to like, exposure therapy do it. But it's like one of those things I think people sell themselves short. It's like we want to be like everybody else because we want to fit in, but really people find you way more interesting if you don't. So
Hmm.
that's why I
Hmm.
would just encourage people to say, to tell people, whatever's on their mind, whatever they do, whatever they're afraid of, it'll make you much more interesting, I think.
Hmm. And I guess a lot of it has to do with our upbringing as well, because, we were told and taught that, you have to do A, B, C, and D, and, in that order. And then, as you mature, as become an adult, you're thinking, okay, you know what? Like that path might not be right for me, but then you don't want to deviate because you don't want to upset anybody. You want to make everybody else happy, and you're suffering in the end, really.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of funny you say that because the first thing that popped into my head, which has nothing to do with that, is like you go out to dinner and someone wants to pay for you at dinner, and it's like, what's the first thing most people do? They say, "Oh, no, 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 let me
Yeah.
get," and instead of like accepting it into their life, and that's what that reminds me of. Is like I think people should talk more about themselves and everything, and there are definitely times where maybe you want to let the other person talk, and of course
Hmm.
and all that other stuff. But I think people need to share more. We're too like it's becoming too, you know, isolating or something.
Yeah, and so, why is that? Is that because I don't know, we feel guilty
Mm.
When you said about the paying thing, yeah, I mean, there's so many times where, I'll take my parents out, and my mom will give me money for gas. And it's like, no, 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 don't worry about it. But then, you know, I changed my tune a little bit, because
Mhm.
we should be accepting and we should be grateful that, people are, want to pay for our dinner or our, gas, or whatever, or even a compliment. It doesn't have to be money. It's even compliments. We
Yeah,
tend to shy away from them.
yeah, of course, compliments are I think that's a big one too, but I think yeah, I think a little bit is maybe, like, some sort of guilt, feeling guilty that you're taking something, but really it's
Mhm.
more about them too, because it makes them feel good, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's the way we can look at it.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember when I was married, my mother-in-law used to bring us tons of food, like, and not
Mhm.
only food items, but, detergent. And I'd always be kind of resentful, thinking, she doesn't think that I can afford my own, detergent. But then, I remember my sister-in-law saying, she finds pleasure
Mm,
in doing that. So it's really having that compassion, right? And just realizing that, yeah, you know they they get something out of it more than you do, just by saying thank you.
mhm.
you know
Yeah, absolutely, and, yeah, I think we jump to that, like, I even noticed that in my comments, for example, sometimes someone will say something and I have, like, a immediate reaction, like, "Oh, what do they mean by that?" But
yeah,
do we actually know what they mean by the things that they do or not?
no, that's right. Yeah, we can't possibly know what another person is thinking, or going to say. And sometimes it is the receiver, right? It's how
Right.
we are reading it and how we're taking it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get to make that choice, how we receive things.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big part of it too, is, just the example that I gave, I was perceiving it as her thinking that I couldn't afford it. Or even, my mom, who wants to pay for my gas. It's like, what do you mean? I can afford gas. But that's not, the intent where she's coming from.
Right, right.
So
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. So we really have to, I guess, take a step back and not be
Mhm.
reactive all the time. I know, and with the comments too. I mean, yeah, people, they'll type comments out and we'll receive them in a certain way, but maybe they weren't intended that way, or maybe they were having a bad day, or, um, maybe it was in the dark that they were texting. I mean, who knows, right? And especially with the social media that's out there, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people can, kind of get their backs up and misinterpret or misread, or misjudge what people are saying. And everybody's, I guess, entitled to their opinion,
Mhm.
right? I think social media has maybe gone too much in that way, where,
Mhm.
people just say anything without really thinking about how it's going to affect that other person.
Yeah, of course, and you don't have to, like, face the person either, unless you are public, you don't actually have to be in front of that person, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's, I think showing compassion,
Mhm.
is a big thing, these days, where, you have to kind of think about the other person. And because basically, fundamentally, we all want the same thing.
Yep.
We all want to be successful, we all want to be loved, we all want food on the table. And so, um you know just being compassionate and,
Mm.
patient as well. I don't know if patience should come in that too, but,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. But, just getting back to the limiting beliefs, how did you get out of that? Like, do you have tools in your toolbox that you can talk about? And
Yeah, I mean, I think, at that time as well, I was doing like, any personal development stuff I think could be helpful. I do think we have to like, I try to encourage people to get into the zone of wanting to make that change. So I think just simply saying to yourself that you want to make the change is
Mhm.
probably good enough. Cause that like really, I didn't do anything, I don't think I really did anything different other than I started to want to change, so I think that it can be, just that simple. And really, I mean, sometimes I really think rock bottom is a good place to be for some people because it's like when you have no other choice but to make the change, then, sometimes that's what it takes, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah. It's unfortunate that,
Yeah.
you have to go there, but, I like what you said about you have to make that choice. And, I think a lot of people, or even, even myself, I would compare myself with
Mm.
people. And then you get into this bitterness where you say, well, why does that person have, X, Y, and Z? I want X, or even to be, why does that person have the gift of the gab? Or why does that person, why so successful in their business? But the change really comes within. And unless you're ready to commit to making that change, and also the change isn't easy, because we're so wired. We've been doing the same thing over and over again all our life. And then all of a sudden we decide to change. But what does that even mean? Because change, when you change, there's a lot of work
Mm.
involved, as you know. You have to be willing to put that work in there. So it's not just, you know, deciding that you want to change, but it's deciding to do the work.
Yeah, right. And you said, I mean, comparing to other people is like a big one because you don't even know, like I used to do that all the time because, I got to a stage where people were outgrowing me very quickly. And
Hmm.
but then I had to realize, I'm like, yeah, but you don't actually know like what that person went through before. It's like maybe it looks like a person is doing better
Right.
than you, but how did they get there in the first place? You don't actually know.
That's right. Exactly. And that's, yeah, 100%. Yeah. You don't know what they went through. You don't know, the sacrifices that they made,
Mhm.
let's say, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Hitting rock bottom it's an interesting one for me because everybody has their own rock bottom, right?
Hmm.
So what might be rock bottom to you might not be rock bottom to me.
Hmm.
And so, there's so many levels of that, right? So,
Oh yeah. Yep.
yeah, it's just, I guess it's realizing, what your limitations are, and where you are, where you want to be, and having the faith, in yourself that, you know what, you can get from A to B,
Hmm.
by doing the work, by, like you said, going to, uh, self-help.
Hmm.
There's so much self-help out there right now. I mean, there has always been, I think. And so, it's sort of evolving, but the tools are there. That's what I always say to people. The tools are there. You just have to be open to seeking them out.
Yeah, and yeah, the tools are inside of you too. So, I think we already have like a lot of what we need.
Yes. Yeah. You were in marketing, I think you said, right? You were in
Yeah.
marketing. And so what made you decide to just leave it? Because that's so unconventional, right? I mean,
Yeah.
nobody ever says, "Oh, quit your job to do something totally different."
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just like one of those people. Basically what happens for people who don't know is when I was 21, I had a successful marketing agency, and then my heart just wasn't in it. And I'm like one of those people. If my heart isn't in something, I just cannot
Mhm.
motivate myself to do it. There's nothing I can do to make me want to do it. So one day I literally just, pretty much stopped. And there were other things that were happening at the time that kind of made it stop. I always tell a story. I did nothing for like 3.5 years after that,
Wow,
pretty much.
really?
Yeah, I didn't have a job. I didn't like I did nothing. Although I say I did nothing, but really I spent that time educating myself, learning
Mhm.
new things and kind of I learned a lot during that time, but it was like a very stressful time for me. And
Mhm.
then, then I started this channel, obviously. But yeah, I think for me, it's like one of those things, like I said, I just couldn't bring myself to keep doing it.
Mhm. Mhm. And I guess, yeah, and unfortunately there are a lot of people out there who, even though it's not in their heart, like they're not motivated, but they just keep doing it because that's what they think that they have to do.
Yeah, and yeah, I think what I will say is I think I've always had in the back of my head that things can be better. Like I always just I don't know, maybe I was wired that way when I was born or something,
Mhm.
I always like to remind people that it can get better. I mean, if I can do it, I always tell people to, if I can do it, you can do it. I always joke that I fell on my head when I was 10 years old. After that, school started going downhill and everything. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember one of the videos that, that I was listening to, you were pushing that, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something, just keep doing it. And, even though there are so many people out there who are doing the same thing,
Mhm.
but there are so many more people who, have to, who are available to listen to what you're offering. So, and it's having that narrow mindset, right? Instead of that growth mindset where, you're the sky's the limit, and really the sky is the limit. Like there's an abundance of everything that out there.
Yeah, yeah, there are gonna be people who like you, don't like me, and vice versa. So there's more than
Mhm.
enough for everyone, I believe, out there. There's something else I was gonna say about what you just said as well. Of course, now that I'm drawing a blank on it, but that's okay. We can. I'm sure it'll come back to me.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, now I'm
Oh,
interested in
yeah.
is it the
Okay,
growth mind? Okay.
yeah, what were you saying before that?
I was just saying about the growth mindset and how we're limited. We in our capability, we think that
Oh,
we're limited.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say. So what I was gonna say is what you said about not giving up. I think it's funny that pretty much any of these stories you hear about like a successful person, they all have the same story about how they just didn't give up.
Mhm.
It's just that simple. They just kept trying. And I'm like, I want to remind people it's like it's not really a unique story, and that should prove to you that if you just don't give up, eventually you're gonna be successful at whatever it is you're trying to do. I mean, because
Yeah,
it's everybody's story.
great point. Yeah, yeah. And not to be hard on yourself either. I mean,
Mhm.
um, with limiting beliefs, there are so many, you get the imposter syndrome, and you're
Mhm.
always thinking that you're not good enough. And that was me for the longest time.
Mhm.
And, I always thought, oh, I got this great job because I'm lucky. But luck sometimes doesn't have to do with it. It's your skill. When I was in the corporate world, I climbed, I went from an admin assistant to an associate dean. And so, you know, I just thought that I wasn't deserving,
Mhm.
for every step that I took forward. And then, of course, it doesn't help that people are, you hear people gossiping in the background, right? Um, so it's, if I had to do it again, boy, like things would be so different. But now I can see that, what, I earned every one of those positions. And it took a lot of healing to realize that. And if you're not willing to do the work, or if you don't do the work, then you'll never know, and you'll always be thinking that you'll always have those limiting beliefs and not believing in yourself.
And those are like awesome stories too that I look at it as like building a story. So all the things that you go through, it's like if you just said, "Oh, I woke up one day and I was successful," nobody wants to hear that.
Right? Yeah.
So you have to have the story, to make that happen. And I also think that like people gossiping and stuff like those are all clues to success. So, if people are doing that, I think you should pat yourself on the back.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's true. Yeah. Um, and I was going to say something now I forgot. It just slipped my mind. Just about the lack of self-worth, I guess, that we put on ourselves, or that we think about ourselves. And I think a lot of that comes from the comparing. We talked a little bit about comparing
Hmm.
ourselves with other people. And I think the minute that you stop doing that, um, not only will you be happier, because then you're not
Wow.
comparing yourself with other people, and you're kind of in your own lane, because when you compare yourself with other people, you're kind of in their
Mhm.
lane, in their business, I always say, right? But so if I'm in their business, if I'm always comparing myself to them, or whomever it might be, I'm not working on my business, not business, but my own stuff. Oh,
Right.
we lost you. Do your
Oh,
camera?
am I gone?
Yeah. Technology, right?
We haven't been talking that long.
No, we haven't. I know
Yeah, it's weird.
technology is great when it works, and then
Yeah.
when it doesn't, it's yeah, horrendous.
Yeah,
But
that's crazy.
yeah, so I was just saying about comparing yourself to other people. So when you're
Mhm.
comparing yourself to other people, you're kind of in their lane, in their life, and that so you're not concentrating on your own life. Be happy in your own way, because I always kind of question, what is happiness? But happiness is different for everybody. So what makes me happy might not make you happy, and vice versa. So we have to find our own happiness, and
Mhm.
everybody, I feel, has it in them. It's kind of, you just have to bring it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, happiness is the result of achievement as far as I'm concerned. So, I think as long as we're like working towards, worthy goals or something, then
Hmm.
we will be creating happiness.
Yeah. So who's your go-to person or thing, or um to motivate you?
I have so many. I have a long, long list. I talk about all the time. Napoleon Hill talks about building a mastermind, even of dead people. And so, I mean, I have a list of Zig Ziglar, Les Brown. There are so
Hmm.
many people on that list where some of them aren't even alive any longer. But I still, that's the beauty of the internet, right? I can still watch their videos pretty much
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. But I think it's important, right, to, use those resources.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, yeah, we might not feel the motivation that, we felt yesterday. I mean, every day I feel is different. And sometimes when I feel really motivated, it's like I realize it, and it's like, okay, can I just bottle this up and feel like this for, for a long time or forever even, but we all have our ups and downs. Um, that's just part of life. And
Mm.
so, as long as we have something that we can go to, it's like that pick me up thing.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, because, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people that when they go down that rabbit hole, it just gets deeper and deeper, and it's harder for them to get out of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Especially when they're in like a dark place. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, it was great chatting. And
Yes.
so tell me, like, I know that you have a lot of videos going on, you do a lot of
Yeah.
readings. So are they on a daily basis?
Yeah, I do. So I do four a day pretty much. So I have four videos that go out every single day on that channel. And that's pretty much my main focus right now. I do have a podcast, but yeah, I kind of have been messing around with different things there, so I haven't really been doing it for the past couple weeks.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So when you say four videos, that's four for each sign, right?
No,
Or
just four total. So I basically I do two sets for all 12 signs. It's like 24 videos a week, and well, sometimes more, but
Mhm.
pretty much 24 a week.
Okay, okay. And are you getting into astrology? Because I know, like, a few posts talk about, the planets and the alignments and everything.
Yeah, I've always been into I mean, I've always been able to do astrology and everything. And I've always kind of woven it into the videos and stuff. But am I doing it more? I'd say no. Probably just gonna continue just kind of weaving it throughout it.
Okay. All right. Well, your messages are amazing.
Thank you.
Not just the card reading, but the little, I like listening to you, because you always have some motivational things in there as well,
Yeah.
and stories. So to complement the card reading, YouTube channels, I think you have how many YouTube channels now?
Uh, a bunch.
You're
I have
busy.
like five, something like that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I saw that you have a Spanish one.
Yeah. So I tried translating my videos into Spanish as
Okay, I
well.
was going to ask you if you're Spanish or.
I am Spanish, but I do not. I speak terrible Spanish. So
Okay. All right.
I couldn't do it myself.
Okay, so you're not speaking, you're having them
No.
translated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, anyway, it was really nice chatting. Thank you again so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. And
Awesome.
all the information for Chris will be down below. Thanks,
Awesome.
Chris.
Thank you.